My next task, aside from these remarks, is to introduce our first speaker from outside our community today. And he is a gentleman that comes to us with national and international reputation. He completed his undergraduate studies at Michigan State University. He had earned a master's in science at Florida State University, and he returned to Michigan State University to complete his PhD in movement science. He served on the faculty at the University of Massachusetts for a period of time and returned to the University of Michigan to begin his teaching and his research career, and established the University of Michigan Health Management Research Center. Over the course of those years from 1976 to today, he has published well over 500 papers, essays, books. He is the author of The Biology of Physical Activity, the author of Biological Awareness, Frontiers of Exercise Biology, The 1 Minute Manager Gets Fit, and the second edition, The 1 Minute Manager Balances Work and Life. His most recent text, his most recent effort, is a text entitled Zero Trends. And in the process of articulating what he did in Zero Trends, he's offered guidance to the business community, he's offered guidance to consumers, offered guidance to government regarding the future of healthcare and what's going to be needed. Dr. Edington's research focuses on the relationship between healthy lifestyles, vitality, and quality of life as they benefit both individuals and organizations. He is specifically interested in how individual health promotion, worksite wellness activities, and programs within organizations impact healthcare cost containment, productivity, and human resource development. Professor Edington, depending upon your cultural significance as to which term is more important, is the grandfather and/or godfather of worksite wellness. He is a world-class authority in the drive to make decision-making in the evolving healthcare movement more rational, more logical, more productive, and more beneficial to the people it serves. Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome to the platform, from the University of Michigan, Professor D. Edington.
All right. You want to hear this? All right. I'm going to be walking around here. Well, it's a privilege to follow Dr. Klum and Dr. Reitman. And the next speaker is going to give you the real story. I'm just sort of filling in between the two good talks and Andy Weber coming up. And I'm going to talk what I want to say. I never get invited back anyway, so what the hell? I'm just going to say exactly what I want to say. And talk about what I've done for the last 35 years in this field. And tell you what I'm going to do during the next 15. I think the next 15 are going to be as important or more important than the last 35, because we know much more now. So I started in this field after working with rats for 15 years and helping rats live longer with better fur. And I switched in, taught in the school business for 20 years, and see, these are consistent, overlapping, not longitudinal. To help executives when they come back around 40 they're ready for a change in lifestyle. They know the way they've been living their life, it can't continue to be productive living that same lifestyle. And that was a good opportunity. So I switched into humans, and I'm not sure whether it's better to deal humans or rats. Rats show up every day, and humans don't always do that. So I'm going to have a lot of fun talking about this very serious issue, and I hope that we all feel the urgencies that we saw in the previous two talks. We can't be complacent anymore, and I think it's time to make some changes So this is the house that we're in. 34 people. I had 34 people in my research lab. I'll hire physics and math majors because they know how to deal with large sets of numbers. We only work with companies. In 1977, 78, I decided to work with companies just the same way bank robbers decided to work with banks in the 1930s, because that's where the money is. No one else in America has any money other than companies, essentially. And nobody else cares about healthy people other than companies. The only ones that make money on healthy people are companies and the people themselves and their families. Most of the people, other people make money on sickness. And so there's no motivation for doctors, nurses, medicine, healthcare professions, including you, to have healthy people because you make money on sickness. And I think you're part of that issue. You could also be part of the problem. You're all part of the problem. You could be part of the solution. I know some of you, I just talked to a couple of people in Seattle that are working in this field, and on the positive side. Risk factors, prevention of risk factors is not the answer either. We got to go further upstream. And Dr. Klum talked about some of that. So I have a lot to learn yet. But these people are helping me. But based on what I've learned, I've decided to take another career change, and a fourth one, and leave the university, start my own company. I'm either interested or am I committed? So when you're in the ivory tower, you're sort of interested in the world. But if you really want to make a difference, you got to leave the ivory tower and go out and do it on your own. So I'm doing that, and I'll tell you why that in a few minutes. But before I get into too much, let me ask you this question. Assume you work at a really great place. Maybe this is a great place, I don't know. Got a great landscape, that's good. That's a good environment. But if you work at a real good place, great place, I mean, you hated to leave at night, you couldn't wait to get back the next day. It was really good. You make a lot of profit, or if you're nonprofit, you just figure out how to hide the money. That's all the difference between profit and nonprofit. But you really had a really great time, the best place you could ever work. You wanted your family to come there, you wanted your good friends to come there. What words would you describe that workplace or the workforce? Tell me some words. You have to say out loud, pretty loud, because I don't hear so well. So, what are some words? Delight? Fun? Joyful? Enlighten? Remarkable? Excitement, stimulating, inspiring, meaningful, resilient, optimistic. That's probably enough. You can go on and on for that. Supportive. Nobody, and I've been doing this, I started in 2008 with our research group because I wasn't happy with what we were doing, although I was writing Zero Trends at the time. And I've asked every audience in the last 6 months that same question. There's not one person ever in all those times have mentioned exercise, weight loss, body weight, alcohol, blood pressure, cholesterol. No one has ever mentioned that. Now, those are tactics. You have to do tactics. But what do you have to do before you get to tactics? You have to have strategies, you have to have objectives, you have to have a mission. So you just gave me the mission. That's a high level. Don't forget the high level. Don't forget the mission or the vision. Because life starts a lot of ways. It starts with meaning, it starts with values, it starts with all the kind of things that we're thinking about here at this, I think, what I can see of this curriculum here. I was a dean at Michigan in kinesiology for 22 years. And the people that are attracted to your field are some of the most caring people. I just talked to, last couple months ago, to physical therapy and occupational therapy meeting, joint meeting in Chicago. I put them in the same bucket as you. They're the best people, the most caring people that came through our program in in kinesiology come here. So I know a little bit about the people. So you really have an opportunity to get to that high level, but don't lose sight of the vision. Like BP lost sight of their vision when they had the problems in the Gulf a couple years ago. So let's don't lose that, because that's part of my second story. It's part of my next 15, well, I'm 3 years into it, next 12 years. 2023 is my retirement date. But I'm committed to get that second problem solved. Okay, strategies in the 20th century. I think we lost the 20th century. Anyone think we were great in the 20th century in medicine and health? We lost it. We actually failed America in this field. There's no fewer people with diabetes than in the 1950s. There's no fewer people obese in the 1950s. There's no more people exercising in the 1950s. I mean, we'd lost the 20th century. So the 20th century, as was suggested before, would just wait for disease or high-risk factors and treat. That's the economic model. You know, I hate it. I go into a small city or any city. Who has the biggest buildings, typically, except for public buildings? Who has the biggest buildings? Hospitals, almost always hospitals. You go to some buildings in the Midwest, and there's cranes out there, not downtown or in the industrial sector, but in the hospital building new buildings. They're taking some of that money, putting it into buildings or buying more property. Who's adding more jobs anyplace else? The healthcare sector. Who's paying for those jobs? Industry. That's a bad deal for America when your biggest industry sector is paying for sickness. And Jerry gave you some numbers. Dr. Rietman gave you some numbers. You know, this is unsustainable. We all know that. In quality terms, I follow a lot of quality business. Deming, Drucker, Blanchard, and leadership and management. In quality terms, that means we wait for defects and fix defects. You do too. But you have the skills to get ahead of defects. This is the actual, we can predict any organization. If we know the population, we can predict what the diseases are like. This is a disease prediction in an organization. It's a working population. Now, not anyone below 19 or 20, not anyone above 70 or 65 when they retire. That's the kind of diseases that are walking around on this campus, walking around on the buildings, walking around in any company. Most of our focus has been on diabetes and heart disease, which is about 3%, 5% of the population. We focus on that all the time. We focus on the risk factors. The risk factors that most of us focus on were developed in the 1950s. 60 years ago, we're still beating on the same risk factors. You think the world's changed any? You think people have changed any? What about these up here? Allergies, back pain, heartburn, arthritis, depression, migraine headaches, asthma, chronic pain. Can your profession do anything about those? I mean, you could be front line. I mean, organizations need you. The worksite needs you to get in with your training and your capabilities. Medicine focuses down here because they can't make any money up here. I mean, that's a $100 deal up here. This is a $5,000 deal, $40,000 deal down here. Where are they going to spend their time? Okay, I got this from Wikipedia. Chiropractic disorders of the neuromuscular system and the effects of this disorders on general health. I didn't follow the rest of it because then they got into your issues around the profession. Musculoskeletal system is a major, major problem in organizations. The treatment includes exercises, health, and lifestyle counseling. I think I'm going to join you. Your third largest doctoral profession in this healthcare field. And most who take chiropractic care do so for low back pain. That's probably your number one, low back pain, neck, typical pain. I mean, that's what companies need, because they face that all the time. Here's a health risk. I talked about health risk. These are the ones that are mainly health risk for diabetes and heart disease. But most worksite health promotion programs focus on those health risks. 14% of the working population have none of those risks. But most people have some, of course. But I've given up on individual risk factors. I've given up on individual one-trick ponies, just a weight loss program, an exercise program, a stress program. They're useless. By the way, I mainly irritate people, or I think it's challenging people, challenging to do, because not what I say is important. It's not what's on my slides is important. What's going on in your head is important. What can we stimulate inside of your head for creativity? That's the goal from my point of view. So, but the interesting thing is, it's not the number, it's not the individual risk, it's a number of risks, the combinations of risks. I'm just giving you the number because this is our public stratification, but there's a much more complicated stratification that Cigna's licensed. I can't talk about that as much. But this one works, just a public. You have 0 or 2, you're low risk. 3 or more, you're medium risk. 5 or more, you're high risk. I'm just giving you the background. I'm going to get into the present time here in a few minutes. If you're low risk, 64% of the population will be low risk today. 64% of the population, low risk today. In 3 years, 61% will be low risk. You go to American lifestyle, you go to UK lifestyle, Canada, Australia, China, Brazil. We measured all of them. They're all that way. Now, what can you do with that kind of data? Nothing. It's like something like CDC had sent you, something useless. I know you live here with CDC, but I still say they're useless. Because one thing you can do is hyperventilate, because you don't know what happened. Gee, we're worse. All of a sudden, CDC comes out with big headlines, a diabetes epidemic. Where the hell were they 30 years ago? Why didn't they see it coming? Epidemiologists? Fire them all. Well, there's a 78% of the population today, and you would be one of those groups. You're one of a more boring group than I usually talk to. And you probably had lower risk. 78% of the population stayed low risk from 1 year to the next year. What does America do for those people? 0. You don't do anything for them. They're not even on the medical records. People say, the hell, the medical record is going to solve the problems. No. The healthy people are not even on those medical records, and that's where the opportunity is. I say those are the champions. And we do nothing for them. Where else in business do you do nothing for your champions? No place. Well, some people, over 3 years, some people got better, some people got worse. Now, if you're a math major or a physics major, that's a Markov chain analysis. You can analyze it. You can optimize the equations. That's what our people do. 34 people. We have 2 million people on our computers we've been tracking. We do $4 million a year business with those companies. Try to help them see where the best place to intervene. But here are the champions. You got to get to 75 to 85% low-risk people and 85 to 90% people stay in low risk over time, or you won't make a difference in your healthcare costs. I focus on healthcare costs. We got forced into that. My heart is not in healthcare costs. My heart is in people, human resources. Also you can measure short-term disability, workers' comp, a bunch of other things. And so we measure all those. But the heart is my second story here, I'll tell you, is in that. Well, that's the natural flow of risk. So what are you going to do? I hate it when people do health risk appraisals. We've done 7 million health risk appraisals. We finally figured it out that that's probably wasn't the right thing to do. So we've changed it. 7 million health risk appraisals. When people do health risk appraisals, what do? Any of you know what health risk appraisals are? You know, something you fill out, so we tell you back what you already knew, most of them. They do health risk appraisals, and then they go to the high-risk people and try to put all your time in your worst performers. Don't pay attention to low-risk people. Put your time in your worst. I don't know why you do that. Hell, they're not even fun to be around. You know, the low-risk people are out there having fun, they're exercising, they're doing all the kind of things you really like. We put all of our money into the high-risk people, the worst performers. Now, here's another natural flow. Those are low-risk people by age group. So the low-risk people by age group, and here's the annual medical spend. That's low-risk people. Here are the people we don't know anything about other than we know their age and their cost. Here's the medium-risk people. Here are the high-risk people. Which bar do you want to be on? Which bar do you want your whole family to be on, your whole work group to be on? You can say blue. Blue works well at Michigan. All right, that's first question. Second question. Who's a leader that's going to get you on the blue bar and keep you there? Your mother? Your father? No. Everyone agree you're a self-leader? Third question. Are you interested to get on blue bar, or are you committed? If you say, I want to be on the blue bar, I'm a self-leader, and I'm committed, we're done. That's all we have to do. 350 million people in this country. Take a couple weekends to get to everyone. That's all it is. It's that simple to say, not to do. Unfortunately, the American population is moving in that direction. As we've tracked all of our people, we all know that. With aging, well, you can see aging costs go up, but within any one risk factor, any one age group, as risks go up, costs go up. And within the risk group, as age goes up, costs go up. But notice that 55 to 64 is $3,700. High risk, 19 to 34 is $5,100. Controlling risk factors can control costs, can outshine the focus of aging. But the Americans are on that red line. Here's why I changed our thinking. This changed our thinking in mid-2000. The green line is the hospital employees. They didn't get worse over those 3 years. Some got better, but they didn't get worse, no matter where they started. The yellow line got worse, regardless of where they started. So the answer there is don't get worse. So my message to America is help the healthy people stay healthy and don't get worse. And we're done. You don't have to get better, just don't get worse. Getting better, that's a lot of pressure. Geez, I got to lose weight, I got to start to exercise, I got a stress level, control my blood pressure. Well, just don't get worse. Wherever you are, stop getting worse. In America, we get worse every day. Snicker bars, don't take the stairs, Twinkie, Snicker bars. I like Snicker bars. Pretty soon, you're diagnosed with diabetes. Now, if you get diabetes, America will take care of you. At least we used to. That's part of the deal in America. But if you're not diagnosed with diabetes, just stop getting worse. What happens if you don't get worse? What do people eventually do? They get better individually, but they also get better compared to the rest of the country. Health strategies. When we started in this in 1977, 78, we thought, and we first published it in 81, health management programs will reduce lifestyle factors, better factors, healthier people, gains to the organization, and then we measured all these things over here. Real things that you can really measure. I mean, they're actual measures. And we thought we really knew it. Then what was, during this 20th century, in the 30 years of wellness has been around since the early 30s, 40 years, early 70s. What was his technique? What was the style? What was the style of wellness people? What were they using? What was their goal? What was the goal of medicine? Well, the goal was behavior change. Wellness people thought the whole deal is behavior change. We're just going to change behavior. We're going to get people to reduce weight, going to get people to start exercising, we're going to get people to whatever. And medicine, we're just going to treat disease. We're going to wait in our big buildings, wait for bad things to happen to good people, and treat them. Did it work? No. It didn't work. Those are both failed strategies. They'll never take America to a healthy and high-performing country. Why is that? I'll ask you that question in a few minutes, right now. If you continue to wait to fix defects, will you ever get to a fundamental problem? Is it possible to ever get to a fundamental problem if all you do is fix defects? Business learned that. No. Impossible. Medicine, wellness, all the healthcare are failed strategies. They won't take America to a healthy and high-performing country because they just fix defects. Second question, is it better to keep a good customer or find a new one? What do you think? Keep a good customer. Always keep a good customer. We don't do that in wellness or medicine, healthcare. All the healthcare professions, you wait for defects. You're always looking for the next sickness person to come through the door. Sometimes you fix somebody you think you've done. Now you go on to the next one. You don't follow up on them. The real issue is the follow-up, not the acute fix. Is the action reward, is that what's sustained? Yeah, if you're a Skinner psychologist, sure. If you want to sustain an action, you reward it, at least intermittently. Probably intermittently is the best. We don't do that in medicine or healthcare. The sick people get all of our attention. It's like the disrupted kid in school. Gets all the attention. The others don't get any attention. They're doing what you want them to do. Learn. If you put a changed person back in the same environment, what happens? You work all this time to get a change, put them back in the same environment, what happens? Yeah. All right, so that's where I was in 2008, 2009, actually. So I'll go to my friend Albert. And I'm looking for, everyone know Albert Einstein? Yeah. Every place in the world knows Albert Einstein. I'm looking forward to meeting him someday. No hurry. But Albert, what did Albert say? What does Covey say? Covey says if you do the same thing over and over and over again, the same unsatisfactory results, you're insane. Einstein would say if you do the same level, the level of thinking that got you into this situation, this unsustainable situation that we're in, is not the level of thinking that's going to get us out of it. So more of the healthcare professionals that we have been training and relying on, including wellness, will not get us out of this situation. So where do we go next? Well, to a new level of thinking. So what's that level of thinking? What do you think the level of thinking is? What are you thinking about? Where's your visionaries in this field? Where's your black belts? What are we thinking about? What's the goal? What's the next step? I mean, we just had our session, our 31st annual Wellness to Workplace conference, and we gave an award for next practices. I don't believe in best practices. What a waste of time best practices are. You know, best practices are something they've been doing for 5 or 10 years. So why do you want to do that? Now, if you're just starting, that's a good place to start. But what are the next practices? So we recognized and awarded people who are doing next practices. And that's where we have to go. That's where the creativity comes. What do you come to this place for? I mean, this Octagon, from what I can read about it, you can watch Jerry's video on it. It was a pretty good video. You did a good job on that. This is a creative place. So what kind of solutions are you going to come up for? I follow Deming and Drucker, so forth. So integrate health into the environment and culture. Now, I spent all this time thinking about people changing behaviors, what's the relation of risk factors to disease. And then in 2008, as I was writing Zero Trends, I said, that ain't the solution. All those, it was necessary, because when we started on that, nobody thought that those risk factors were related to costs. They all thought they were related to disease, and that's the way they were formed in Framingham, Tecumseh. So we started with no data to show that the risk factors are related to cost, and combinations are related, change in risk factors, change in cost, all the kind of things we did. And then in 2008, as I was finishing that part, I went to the second part of the Zero Trends, said, what's the solution? So I look at companies, and I see safety. Safety is one of my heroes. Because safety figured out in 1940s, 1950s, they're still doing it, how do we fix the systems that lead to the defects? So instead of the slippery floors, the toxic fumes, they cleaned that up and had a better place to work. They're still doing it. Quality is another hero, if that's the right word. They learned in the 1980s and 1990s that you can't just wait for defects, get the cars to market. Time to market was a big thing then. If you have defects, just get them out there, recall the defects, and fix them. It didn't work because somebody started to bring quality products. So in quality terms, fix the systems that lead to the defects. So how does that apply to healthcare? Well, integrate health into the environment and culture, because you can't put a changed person back in the same. So I think there's something ahead of primary care. We have to get out in front of risk factors. That's how we changed our whole thing about health risk appraisals. What do you think, what else is in your body that will lead to disease besides risk factors? Well, your mental attitude, your resilience, your optimism, your creativity, your meaningfulness. So how do we measure those? So we set up our analysts to look at that, and we got some questions. We're putting those into our new health risk appraisal. Then we asked the question, do you think anything around the workplace has anything to do with your health? Yeah. Is it a good place to work? Can we talk to each other? Do we support each other? Yeah. So we put those in. What about your family? Does your family have anything to do with your health? Sure. Relationships, your friends. What about your community? Anything to do with the community health? Yes. We put those in. So now we're thinking much broader. We got to get away from thinking that health is all about me. Because that's what health risk appraisals are. That's what primary care is about me. It's my blood pressure, it's my exercise, it's my weight. I'm responsible. No American wants to be responsible. That's why I call them self-leaders, leadership. Same thing, but a different term. This is more than about me. Healthcare. The health of America is much more about me than about me. So safety and quality heroes. Zero trends. Organization. My vision is organizations ensure a sustainable, healthy, and high-performing workplace and workforce. What's different about that than what wellness typically does? The difference is the workplace. It has to start from the workplace. Eventually, we have to get to the family, and we have to get to the communities, and the states, and the nation, and the world. So we have a long ways to go. You could be the leading edge of this. Because you're trained in things other than just symptoms. And this is a good place to do that. You sort of feel it. Maybe I'm sensitive to that, but I can feel the culture. I think you can all feel culture. The systems approach, remember this? But instead of health, behavior change, and treat disease, now I put in a system. I call it 5 pillars and 4 S's. 5 pillars for the ones that are in the book, and you can see there, senior leadership, operations like HR, self-leadership, rewarding positive actions, and then quality assurance. But 4 S's, I think every system has to meet 4 S's. Number 1, it has to be strategic. You have to be solving a business problem or solving a healthcare problem in a community, solving a major problem. Second, it has to be systematic. You have to have a system to it. That can't just be weight loss here, exercise, and a bunch of stuff. It has to be a system. Second, it has to be systemic. You have to get into the culture and the environment. And fourth, it has to be sustainable. That's called the 5 pillars and 4 S's. That system. Let me go through these relatively. How are we doing for time? Anyone know? 20 minutes. I can slow down. By the way, I'm open to questions. I don't act like I'm open to questions, but I take a question here and there. All right, senior leadership, that's where it has to start. Doesn't stop there, but it has to start there. Because the leaders, senior leaders, set the vision for the organization. They set the vision. They have to provide resources. They have to be supportive. They have to talk the vision. They have to walk the vision. They have to talk about it every time. Every time a senior leader talks about anything, they have to mention the value of people. And most of all, they have to have courage. Because it takes courage to change. It takes courage to get something going and keep it going. It's easy to make announcements. It's difficult to follow up. All the fun is in thinking of the strategy, making the announcement, and then going and having a chicken dinner and playing some golf. They have to follow up. They have to establish a business. What's the business value of a healthy and high-performing workforce and workplace? What's the business value? I think the competitive advantage going forward in this world is not going to be low-cost wages, which we're seeing it around the world, and even in the Midwest especially we're seeing it. People are chasing low-cost wages. That's not going to be the business advantage going forward. The business advantage going forward, in my opinion, is a healthy and high-performing workplace and workforce. Because they're smart. They get smarter and smarter and smarter. We're all smart. But working smart. Working cooperatively. Working with meaningful work. People are enthused about that. The words you gave me, the first question, that's what our goal is. How do we get there? The senior leader has to vision that's where they're going, and you have to have the courage to stay with it. And one example of a CEO in a hospital in Jackson, Michigan, she saw this coming. In 2000, I had an opportunity to go over and talk about the Healthy Village. She bought that concept in her community hospital. She took $20 million set aside in their endowment. So we're going to create a healthy organization and a community. They spent the first 5 years helping on the hospital, inside the hospital. That's a hard place to work. Hospitals, I mean, it's difficult. You get challenged every day. I love to go there because there's cookies on every corner. And I get a cookie here and a cake here and a pie. And 4 hours later, I come out of there 3 pounds heavier. Fortunately, I don't work there every day. But to change that culture is not easy. They got great people there. The mental attitude of those people going in is great. It sort of changes as they work there longer. But she put that money in, and pretty soon her board started to say, wait, what are we doing? We make our money on filling rooms and filling operating rooms. Why do we want healthy people? We don't want healthy people because we need our economic model is sick people. She almost got fired. Almost got fired. A couple of her board members were pretty adamant about staying with the vision. They prevailed, and she's there. And now they got the hospital done. Now they're working on the community and the families. But the courage is so important. Whatever you do is hard. The harder it is, the more courage you need to stay with it. And this is going to take a lot of courage to turn America around. You saw in Jerry's slides, maybe up to 25% of our gross domestic product. It's going to take a lot of money, a lot of courage. Not a lot of money, I'm sorry. A lot of courage. Because there's a lot of money behind the old system. And they don't want to change their golf memberships. They don't want to change whatever. They don't want, the 1% don't want to change. But if we're going to change America, we have to do that. But it's going to take a lot of courage, and some of you can lead that charge. But senior leaders can't do it. They can set the vision. They can't take it from good to great. They can take it from great to good with a couple of bad decisions. We've seen a lot of that recently. So they have to, senior leaders have to turn it over, delegate it to someone, typically human resources. Human resources are the ones that will make it or break it. Human resource department. Because they understand the value of people. Not all of them do. For some human resource people, the idea of a good day is that nobody yelled at them. You know, but we got to get away from that. Because they have to, their job is much bigger than that. Their job is just not hiring and firing and setting salaries and so forth. Their job is to create that culture and environment that allow that vision to come alive. That's a hard job. Integrate all policies into the healthy culture. Health into the culture, not a culture of health. Health into the culture. Same as safety is into the culture. Quality is into the culture. So we're not going to change anything. We're just integrating health into the culture, the value of health, the value of healthy well-being. We've got to integrate those into the cultures. We have to brand it. Branding is probably the single best technique that people have to make a change in a culture or integrate something in culture. What's the brand? I see you have a wellness center here. I'm not sure what a wellness center means. Sometimes a wellness center means just a fitness center. But if it truly a wellness center goes beyond fitness, what's the brand? Is it to have a brand? Is there a name for it? Anyone know it? Any of you work here? Is there a brand? Is there a slogan? Well, that's a guaranteed failure. If you don't know the brand and you don't know what it stands for, why would you ever do it? And Procter & Gamble knows the value of branding. Any business knows the value of branding. Have the brand on your forehead. Procter & Gamble has it on the back of their employee identification card, their mission, their vision. What's the brand? What's the goal? I didn't know it would be that bad. You can't put a changed person back into the same environment. So this is the key. This is the key of getting into the culture and the environment. You know how to do that. Hopefully you have some business courses in your curriculum here. Well, you better get some in there. Because you're in business. You are in business, a very important business. And if businesses want to get you involved, then they better know that you're a business person as well. You're there not just to fix their back or fix their neck, but you're inventing it to get a healthy, high-performing whole person, not a healthy back. They'd probably like a healthy back, but you do the whole person deal. Said physical therapy, occupational therapy, when I talk to them, they're interested in getting in this field. Well, worksite wellness. They're interested in making a difference. You're in the same field. You're in the same healthcare field. I hate the term alternative or complementary medicine. You are medicine, or you are health care. Real health, not disease care. Medicine is disease care. You can be health care. Or get another term. All right. Here's another natural flow for Indian benefits. I'm talking to the benefit conference here over at the Galleria later today. Here's a natural flow in America. Everyone in this room, everyone in this campus, everyone in Atlanta, everyone in Georgia, everyone in the whole United States on one of those three numbers, on one of those three lines. There's 300,000 people on that graph. The red line means they had more than $5,000 of medical spending in any one quarter. We put them on the red line and call that the 0 quarter and go back 12 quarters and forward 12 quarters. That's a natural flow of a heart attack or a serious medical problem. The yellow line is between $500 and $5,000. Green line is not even $500. 6 years in a population life. Which line do you want to be on now? Second question, who's the leader who's going to get you there? Third question, you're interested or committed to get on the green line this time? Now, how does that mean? What does that mean for benefits? Well, benefits, first of all, we take care of sick people. We've always done that. Business has always paid for that since after World War II. They knew the baby boomers are coming along. We pay for the sick people. So we do that, but going forward, we have to reduce the errors in hospitals. We have to have the people communicate to one another. How many times has a medical person called your office and said, what about this person? You ever coordinate with them? You probably coordinate with them, but I doubt if it comes backwards. Reduce errors. Hospitals. Never send your best people to the worst hospitals. Know what the good hospitals are. And help the bad hospitals become better hospitals. If they won't change, then let's put them out of business. Put the bad hospitals out of business. But they're just hurting America. And put all those hospitals, turn them into low-rent condos for seniors. I mean, that's a good place. Every toilet's in every one of those rooms. That's an easy trip. Because we also take care of sick people. Now, we got the acute, now we have the chronic. How do we take care of the chronics? Well, disease management's okay. Don't expect to save any money on disease management. The only thing disease management can do is help you not get worse and avoid that second spike. So we help them don't get worse, and stay on protocol. They'll never be low cost again, but they can be very high performing. They can still be high performing, just not going to be low cost. And then the third opportunity is over here, and that's my bias, of course. How far upstream can we get? How far upstream can we get to influence people's resilience? Resilience, by the way, is the single best stress management program I know of. And yet most people in stress management treat relaxation, hyperventilation, and teach all those things. But that's the opportunity. That's where the economic advantage comes. Taking care of the healthy people. Help the healthy people stay healthy. You don't keep a healthy person healthy. You help them stay healthy. In our new health risk appraisal, we're adding more self-leader assessment. We're adding supportive workplace. I already talked about this. Supportive families, supportive community. That's going to be our health assessment going forward. We have to start thinking outside of me. Because we taught people that it's just about me. And most of them don't care about me. So we don't get very good participation. But when you start to say, what's your responsibility to your work team? What's your responsibility to your family? What's your responsibility to your community? To your children? Now we start to get more engagement. Self-leaders, now we go to the people. With that health risk appraisal. How do we help the low-risk people stay low risk? How do we develop self-efficacy? That's what this is all about. It's not about weight loss, not about exercise, not about blood pressure control. Self-efficacy. How do you help people understand that they can do it? They have the confidence to do it. That's what this is about. Self-efficacy. Once you get into the idea that people don't get worse, and here's a way that you can do it on your own, we'll help you. But you can do it with our help or without our help. By the way, create winners one step at a time. The first step is don't get worse. Public health hates that. But then I said, well, tell me what you've done the last 30 years. All we've been doing is getting worse in this country. And they don't understand mathematics, do they? If you're getting worse, you can't start getting better until you stop getting worse. So mathematically, it's absolutely true. Here's some words you said early on. This is the goal. This is my vision of people. This is a vision I think you want to work with these people. Self-leadership. They have personal control. They understand self-efficacy. They understand how they can do it. They have resilience, optimism, self-efficacy, self-esteem, vitality, and vigor. They're low risk, and they know their purpose, their values, their mission, and their vision. Companies have to know those 4 words, and individuals have to know those 4 words. So that's the goal for the individual's point of view. But for the company, we have to provide the environment and culture. We have to give consumerism. We have to teach consumerism. That's what this is about. How do you deal with this? Where's the right place to spend your money, etc.? So social support. We all know the value of people. How do we help people appreciate that? It's not about me. It's about me and my friends and me and my family and me and my work group. And knowledge, health literacy. Health literacy is so important. At one time, people thought it was grade level reading, health literacy. No. It's how do you understand the health system? How do you understand how to stay healthy? How do you understand if you usually go to a doctor, what they say? Do you have any idea what they say? The reason I don't go to doctors, I go to nurse practitioners because they listen and they can tell me back what I understand. If you don't like those words, how about change, vision, thrust, thrive, enthusiasm, ethics, energy, spirituality, creativity? Put their own words in there. Do you want to work with people like that? Do you want to be somebody like that? Almost everybody I say, yes, I want to be that. Why not? What's the downside to living your life like that and working with people like that and helping the company understand the value of that? I don't see any downside. It's not even expensive. This would be less expensive than behavior change programs because we're working in the environment and culture and vision and mission. Recognize positive actions. You have to align everything with the positive actions. What you reward is what sustains. You reinforce every touch point. You brand everything. Put the brand out there. This is a good thing to do. If you think of something bad, put the brand out there with a big line through it. That's working in an environment to a great extent. I don't like the idea of rewarding people with cash, with dollars. I don't like the idea of rewarding work teams or families. We've just published some work around IBM, what they did to get their families involved, what they did to get the communities involved, get their people involved with communities. You can get people involved with communities and family. Employers love that. Quality assurance, last slide. We develop like a global positioning system. All of you know what a GPS is. If you have a car or you have an iPhone or you have any kind of a smartphone, and you put in, if you want to map, you put in where you want to go. That's the vision. That's the vision. In our development, our software, we put that in first. Then we say, how do you know if you're getting to that vision? And in your GPS has some algorithms in there to calculate how to get there. So you tell us what the algorithms you want, what the metrics, and then we say, okay, if those are your metrics, then here are the data we need. Those are the algorithms that we're going to calculate how you're doing. So we can calculate where you are, the CEO, where the CFO, individual employees. So we have to measure that. If you're going to be sustainable, that's the 4th S. If it's going to be sustainable, people have to get feedback where they're going. Top down is great, but if you don't get bottom up feedback, so they know where they're going. They say, I'm not getting there. So they let people know. That's bottom up. All right, summary. Characteristic, strategic, systematic, systemic, sustainable. Anyone not know those 4 words? 4 S's, that's a good way to remember them. Just think about it as you start to do anything in your life. It has to be strategic, it has to be a reason. Now you'd say, well, I'm living in a moment. I don't have any reason. That's okay. Maybe that's a strategic reason. But systematic, systemic, and sustainable. 3 key learnings. Population approach. We have to approach a population, not individuals. Easy example that I hear is smoking. Smokers have a community of smokers. They hang together. But in smoking cessation, we go into that and we get one and take them out of that community and help. We're going to change your behavior, make you a non-smoker. Well, that sounds good. I'll do it. Now what? Now what happens after they change? They can't go back to the same community where all the support is. They've been ostracized probably anyway. So they got to find a new bar to go to because these people are going to the same bars. If their spouse smokes, they may have to find a new spouse. I mean, that's dangerous out there. They don't like it. It's too hard. They don't have the courage to stay with it. I go right back. So whoever can figure out how do you change that culture, how do you change that whole population, you got to get into the tribe. How do you change it? How do you move the tribe from here to there? Once you figure that out, you'll be very rich and very famous. We've done a little bit by turning smoking into an environmental issue. That helped a lot. But we're stuck at 20% right now in this country. Well, population approach, help the healthy people healthy, and don't get worse. Those are 3 main messages that you should get out of what I just talked about. So here's a do-nothing strategy. Here's a 5 pillars. And then here's 4 choices. Do you want to be a do-nothing company? Do you want to do-nothing person? Just do nothing. Eventually you'll see where it gets you. Because where it got you before is the same place it's going to get you going forward. Traditional, you can throw in a few weight loss programs. And oh, by the way, do you think smoke stopper or weight loss programs, Weight Watchers, you think they want you to lose weight? What do they want you to do? Stay with them. Spend some money on food, maybe, Nutrisystems. You know, they don't care about your weight. They want somebody to lose weight, so they get them on television. You think fitness centers want you to join. You think they want you to show up? Nah, you're too crowded. So follow the money. Those are just one-off kind of things. They haven't worked. Some people, it works great. Some people need that, and it works. But that's traditional. Comprehensive, that just means you just do more of the same stuff. You do more stuff. You do 5 programs. Next year we're going to do 10 programs, and pretty soon we have a comprehensive program. Or you can be a champion company where they have a vision, a system, a systematic, a strategic. And sustainable. All right, last slide. What's the point? Yeah, I shouted at you for however long I shouted at you. What's the point? I don't know. I'm just looking for, I thought you guys are pretty smart here, and good group. None of you as smart as all of you. What do you teach? What do you learn here? You learn to work as individual chiropractors. You know? Here's my little shop, my shingle. You work as a team. You learn to communicate with each other. Well, I don't know what it's about either. I'm just asked this question. I'm looking for a good answer. But what I think it's about is what I think you're about. How do you help each other? How do we help each other in this life? How do we help each other to reduce the amount of pain and suffering? Not just physical, but mental,